Hello and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me in another of my wonderful interviews. Now, we have spoken, and I have talked about in my monologues, about the wonderful thing that you get in toothpaste, that wonderful fluoride that they have put into the water in various places, and they plan to put it in everywhere, just so that you've got no choice whatsoever, because it's so good to you, the fluoride. Even the BBC, they've got on their BBC News Worldwide Service, as you can see there, a wonderful programme about how the marvels of fluoride. Well, as you probably have guessed by now, that's obviously not the case, and there are many people up and down the country up in arms, worried about this. And to discuss this, a recurring visitor to the channel, the lovely Joy Warren, is joining me, and also a friend, colleague, and eagerly up in arms individual, Zach Cox, who I understand is a trainee barrister, and he also is a holistic dentist, so he should know a thing or two. So, Joy, welcome back to the show. It's lovely to have you here again.
Well, thank you very much.
It's a pleasure, and I know that you've been on the case of this. You introduced me, I think, to this, and it must have been nearly a year ago when you came in on the show and you were telling us about it. And of course, people had been speaking about it, but when that very first show went out, a friend of mine who is a retired dental assistant was up in arms with me because she said, I don't know what you're talking about. There's nothing wrong with fluoride. We put it in the thing and it's good for the teeth. That's a complete and utter myth, isn't it?
Apparently so. I think dental students are taught in the dental schools that it's good, and they don't get very much information about it. They're just told, keep making sure that your patients get exposure to fluoride in toothpaste or in water.
Yes. And so, I mean, somebody who would know a little bit more about that is a holistic dentist, I suppose. And Zach is there. Hello, Zach.
Hi.
It's lovely to have you on the show. A barrister in the making, and does that mean that you have to go be a lawyer first and then you become a barrister? Is that how that works?
I think you have to sell your soul to someone first, and then
Oh, then it's all right. Well, I'm glad we got an
then
honest
then they let you in. You
we
know
got
how it is.
we got an
Yeah,
honest man on the show. Then if you if
yeah.
you
Joy,
admitted to it.
Joy's exactly spot on. That at dental school, I learned approximately nothing about fluoride other than it's good. And of
Mm.
course, the latest studies coming out have shown the fact that it does not work. It does not reduce tooth decay. So the Lotus study and the catfish study, weird names. Perhaps you can shed some light on catfish for us, Richard. But very weird names.
Yes, catfish.
Uh,
I've no idea. I mean, I am near the sea, and I haven't caught any catfish, luckily.
yeah. So the catfish study showed that there was no reduction in tooth decay between fluoridated and unfluoridated areas by the time they got to testing the 12-year-old children. At younger ages, they showed the massive and the most impressive reduction of 3 to 4%. In other words,
Yes.
virtually sweet FA.
Mm. So, Joy, let's just find out, for people who've not seen the previous stuff, and hopefully people come to these videos afresh, new people rather than the same echo chamber all the time. Just remind us what fluoride is and why we should be concerned.
Mm. Okay, so it's a derivative of fluorine gas, which is really deadly and which doesn't exist in nature because as soon as it appears deep down in the bedrock, it combines with calcium, for example, to make calcium fluoride. It's highly reactive gas, and that's where the danger lies. Even as combined with calcium, it is still dangerous, electronegative, reactive, and that's why it is very dangerous to swallow, because it reacts with other parts of the body and stops those other parts of the body working. That's it in a nutshell.
Right. And the reason they want to, I mean, my understanding is the reason they want to put it into the water is to get rid of it because they've got an excess of this byproduct and they don't know what to do with it.
It's the cheapest compound of fluoride that the UK government could find worldwide. Cheapest.
Right.
Unfortunately, it has heavy metals in it, like arsenic, mercury. And why would your caring government want you to swallow something which has got minuscule amounts of heavy metals, but which are bioaccumulative over the decades. 24/7 swallowed every day of your life. It's going to cause chronic ill health before your time. It makes you ill, doesn't knock you off yet, but unfortunately that causes a lot of extra expense on the NHS. But that's denied. But why are people so chronically ill? Not just for fluoride. Obviously, there are other poisons in our background. We're exposed to so many things. Glyphosate, for example. But it's one of the things you just can stop if you want to. You don't have to drink it, but it costs money not
Well,
to drink it.
when you say you don't have to drink it, that's a choice you've got if you have an alternative water supply. Most of us don't have a well in our houses, and we have to take what comes from the municipal water treatment centre.
And
And if they
first of
start,
all,
yes, go on.
And first of all, you need to know it's there in the first place. And then you know it's there, why you wouldn't want to drink it. So you do have to do some investigation if you hear about it in the first place. But so many people are skeptical, they don't even bother, just carry on drinking the water and not really worrying about it.
No, I mean, I think that's very true. In as much as that, a lot of people have no concept what's in their food, what's in their water, or where everything's come. Everything is done for them, and they just take the easy route. But how long have they been? Because fluoride is in certain areas already. How long has that been going on, and what areas are already, subjected to it?
Okay, since 1964, the West Midlands, including Birmingham, which was the first, they got a grant from America to start the program. Then it moved out into the West Midlands and then into the Northeast and then to isolated pockets, which are very strange. Why they would choose to go to Cheshire? Why would they choose to go to Concert in North Durham? Why would they choose to go to Bedfordshire and Bedford Town? It doesn't make sense at all. I still can't work out why those particular areas were fluoridated. All right, I think possibly I've worked out why Concert was, because Concert was a mining community. And they was first fluoridated around the time of Maggie Thatcher's government. And we know the trouble that Maggie had with her mining.
Yes.
But why Cheshire? I can't work it out at all. Nantwich.
It's not. I mean, it's not that they're near the plants that are manufacturing this stuff.
It might have been, and those plants are no longer existing. The ones in West Cumbria, though, it's clearly obvious that everything north of Sellafield is fluoridated. Is it to keep the population quiet and stop grumbling about there being a radioactive site near them?
Ah,
Or,
right. So like a diversion, so they
yeah.
can all be moaning about fluoride over there. Meanwhile, they're all lighting up at night when they should be asleep because of radiation. So when we last spoke, you were talking about, I think it was Yorkshire, that were on the process of having the fluoridation put into their water, and there was a consultation. I don't know whether enough people wrote to their MPs as a result of this, or whether enough people even knew about it. But that's now deemed a good idea, and they're having it anyway. Is that right?
Right, those are the counties to the north of Yorkshire, although some fringe villages in North Yorkshire are collateral damage because they get the water from Northumbrian Water, which is the main water provider for the whole of the northeast, right up to the border with northeast Cumbria, and right across to the sea. Um, so yes, we had a public consultation. We don't know how many people took part, and quite frankly, it doesn't matter because even if we had given really, really, really strong arguments against fluoridation, the decision had already been made. We had heard on the grapevine it was a done deal. But we tried our best. We tried to get as many people aware, but we had very little very little chance because local media had been closed down on us.
And like all these consultations, it's not brought. When they wanted to sell off public amenities, they told everybody knew about Ask Bob or whoever it was. The pub, with gas and things like that. But these things that they just want to do, it's like, well, it's on the website. If you see it, you see it. If you don't, well, tough. They don't advertise that. Is it now the case that having got it up in those areas, it's going to come, excuse the pun, downstream to the rest of the country?
Right, it's going to take several months for anything to happen. We're waiting for the contracts to be signed with Northumbrian Water. Then they have to go out to tender to buy the equipment and spend millions. The government's going to have to spend millions of pounds to fluoridate the northeast. It's not going to happen. We're
Right.
determined it won't happen, but we've got time on our hands still.
So let
And
me
that's
tell.
really, yes, and obviously we now know that there's a swathe of counties across the middle of England, starting off with Worcestershire, jumping over the West Midlands because they're already fluoridated, going to Leicester City, Nottingham and Nottinghamshire, Rutland and Norfolk, and fringes of three counties where they border the Nottinghamshire border because they might also get some fluoridated water from Nottinghamshire water treatment works. So a little bit of Leicestershire, Derbyshire, and Lincolnshire might also be caught up as collateral damage.
Lucky them.
Yes.
Let's just turn back to Zach, because I'm gonna ask him to put his legal hat on now, if that's all right, Zach. As I said at the beginning, most people don't have wells or alternative supplies of water. If you live near the sea, as I do, I can always nip out on a boat and try and find some water that's not too polluted with other things, but I still have the problem of desalinating it. Really and truly, people don't have a choice of where they get their water from, realistically. So isn't this about choice?
Yeah, absolutely. It is. It's about this myth of public health. There's no such thing in reality because every doctor, every clinician who treats a person treats them as an individual. And we're taught from a very early age at dental school, in my case, or med school, in doctors' cases, that you have to give them informed consent. And that consent has been very much tightened by the Montgomery ruling. I'm sure you've come across that, where a very educated lady was not told that her child was at risk of being born with very large shoulders, and therefore a conventional vaginal delivery would not be possible. She had a PhD in biochemistry, I believe. So the doctor chose not to tell her of that risk, even though it was around about 10%. And of course, the worst thing happened. Her poor baby was damaged. Since then, it's our duty as clinicians to tell people all of the risks. And now with fluoride, you have risks to the thyroid gland at infinitesimally small levels, way, way lower than the government are proposing to put into our water. So I'm getting bored of saying this study, but 2018 study showed that the thyroid was disrupted at 0.22 milligrams per liter, and they're proposing to put into our water fluoride at 1.0 part per
Right.
million. So they're putting us at risk with very, very little benefit. And this myth of public health that we must take medicine in order to help little Johnny down the road or little Sarah down the road who's got tooth decay is absolute and utter nonsense.
Surely little Johnny down the road, or the other one that you mentioned, could just stop eating sweets and eat some real food, and then they wouldn't have so much problems with their teeth, rather than the rest of us have got to have our thyroids explode for the sake of a few kids in their milk teeth phase.
Well, that's exactly right. You will find the majority of children that have tooth decay have woeful diets. It's as simple as that. And is our government interested in regulating the food industry and bringing them into line and stopping them selling, I don't know, crunchy nut cornflakes, Coca-Cola for breakfast, Red Bull, or whatever the children are addicted to?
Other brands are available of equal
Yeah,
severity.
I'm not against those brands, but all things in moderation, right? So
Yeah.
I distinctly remember my mother-in-law. I was telling her off because she was feeding my babies crunchy nut cornflakes, I think it was, and I said, that's just pure sugar. I mean, why not just buy them a Mars bar and be done with it? And she said, well, why are they allowed to sell it? And that is a bloody good question. And we know the answer, don't we, Richard?
Well, I mean, again, it does come down to choice, doesn't it? I mean, if you want to stick any kind of substance into your mouth and have a reaction from it, that should be your choice. But when you talk about things like water, as I third time mentioning, most people have no other choice. You're not going to stand outside and wait for it to rain. You have to mostly get it from your municipal water treatment centre. The water treatment centres are already not necessarily the healthiest place to get water from in the first place. So, but if they're going to put in, it doesn't really matter to me what the cost is. If they're going to put in a substance that shouldn't be in water, I don't want it.
No, particularly when it's predominantly a product of the nuclear industry. It's
Well, exactly.
an aluminium industry, and they are getting rid of their toxic waste by selling it to us at a profit and telling us that it's good for us, when patently that is not true. That's why the majority of Europe have already banned it. I mean, I think Sweden and Holland had legal cases in the 70s and decided that it was mass medication and that was unlawful. Same with Germany. And indeed, where they have turned the fluoride off, for example, in East Germany and Iceland, they found that tooth decay has improved. It has not got worse.
Well, there you go. So is this a legal battle to try and persuade the other side to not do this?
Yeah, because they don't listen to common sense. So unfortunately, we're forced to go to the courts, and we're starting a group action via most of the people can contact you, Joy, can't they, through your website. You can also, we're going to put a link up on kingfisherjustice.co.uk. That should go live this week or next week as well, so that people can get the information they need to join this claim. It's extremely affordable to join. It's less than £25 to be a claimant for a letter before action. And the plan is to get thousands of people to be claimants, to put huge pressure upon the government to stop forcing us to take medication that we don't want, that is dangerous, and that does not work.
Wow. So, okay. So just to recap then for the hard of thinking, which is probably me, you're doing a massive claim, and you're effectively, people can become these claimants and pay you, is it? And you're representing all of these people.
Not pay me. I just make the tea and do the
Okay, yeah.
do the paperwork. I'm still a student.
Are you putting fluoride in the tea? That's the big question. Well, you know what lawyers are like.
Yeah, speaking of lawyers, our barrister is 1 in a million. You don't find people like her every day. She cares. She absolutely cares, and she's not doing it for the money.
Well, presumably, I mean, like a lot of these people, it's going to affect them as well, isn't it? I mean, this is the weird thing on all of these things. The people who are making these decisions, have they got a private supply of water?
Yes, of course they
right.
do.
Oh, well, there we are. That's that answer.
Or you can get fluoride filters. It's as simple as that. I mean,
Yes.
there is that argument that we could all filter our water.
Well, I was going to ask Joy those sort of questions. How do we deal with it in the meantime? But just go back to the legal thing. So, in essence, am I right in saying that you, for a small fee, which you've said, and I think that's a very good fee because you haven't got to do anything much, it seems, you get your letter, and what's the process then?
Well, Joy's going to be the lead claimant, and we are hoping that we will stop them at the letter before action stage, which is a legal letter which the government would have to reply to, and whoever else we decide will be the defendants. And then if they don't stop there, then we would take it to court, and we aim to have thousands of claimants and have their claims grouped together in what's called a group action.
Right.
And we are reliant really upon people like yourself, your good self. Thank you for having us on for
it's £25, by the way.
Yeah. For 24, 24, please. For giving us publicity, because it's all about publicity to let people know what is going on and let people know that they can succeed, they can pressurize the government, they can pressurize these water companies to turn it off. I would emphasize that this chemical predominantly affects women. It's a chemical which makes their babies less intelligent. And who wants a baby that's less intelligent? That's not me for sure.
No.
It raises the risk of having an ADHD child. And anyone who's had an ADHD child will know it is a living hell.
Yeah.
It damages women's thyroid predominantly, and it causes hip fractures in perimenopausal and menopausal women. And hip fractures are fatal in about 30% of people don't survive 12 months after a hip fracture if you're over the age of 60. So you're talking about a disease which predominantly attacks women. So, a chemical, which is not necessary. Yeah. It's not necessary for our survival. It's not necessary to prevent tooth decay because it doesn't work.
No, there was a guy, I'm just trying to remember who he was now. I heard this on something, who went... he's been to some country where they don't use sweets and things, and they just have a very sort of whale-like, I don't know whether it was Eskimos or where it was. I thought it was in sort of higher regions of Europe somewhere. And their teeth were green, but they were all perfectly formed, and they had no problem whatsoever. And they weren't having any of these chemicals, and they, were extremely healthy. Our whole lifestyle is bad enough these days with everything else. We don't need to sort of put the cream on the top, so to speak, to just push us over the edge. Joy, so you're going to be the lead litigant, is that it?
I'm the claimant.
Claimant.
I'm a client, aren't I?
The client.
I'm the client. Well, I'm representing Fluoride Free Alliance UK.
So everybody gets behind you, which would be fantastic. And of course, presumably at the same time, they can write to their MPs and make a noise in their local newspaper and radio station, and shout from the banners, we're not happy.
Well, what we're hoping they'll do is they will become claimants with me, because I'm a claimant and a client, and they will also spread the word to their networks.
Yes.
And that's how we're managing. It's difficult to do anything when there's a huge national media blackout on this.
No, totally agree. And I think I've had people on before where they say, try and rally people to write to their MP about all sorts of things, including the medical intervention that we all went through 4 years ago. And they just come back with the same reply, the same book reply that every MP has been told to say. So that's kind of a waste of time, really. But getting it on the social media and all those sort of platforms and telling your friends and all of that is clearly the best grassroots approach.
Yes, and it's a lot of fun as well, believe it or not.
Yes, no, I can imagine, because the BBC, who recently put out that piece that you said, they have really sort of tried to sort of scare people off and say it's all conspiracy theorists who are coming up with this negative thing to fluoride. But there is, I mean, if the choice is taken away from you, it doesn't really make any difference. I want the choice to have clean water or polluted water, and I know which one I would go for.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you notice in that particular program, they did not mention anything about Judge Edward Chen's decision in September that fluoride poses an unreasonable risk to the health of children. They were just saying some research, not convincing, they just could not bring themselves to say that was an important judicial decision, which everybody and throughout the world should be listening to now.
Yes. The only consolation is, of course, that very few people probably listen to the BBC anyway, but it's in my humble opinion, but anyway, I was going to get on to the point of, in the meantime, whilst this is going, and we'll put all the links in the description and people can, get on board with this, which I think is a wonderful idea, by the way. In the meantime, if people are worried, firstly, how do they find out if their water is fluorided? Secondly, what can they do to alleviate that or challenge that? Is it worth challenging the water companies? And thirdly, there are various treatments that you could do to get rid of it from the water at home. And can you charge that to your water company?
Oh boy, that's 4 questions in one go.
Yeah, sorry about that.
How can they find out if they're fluoridated? If they're okay with the internet, they look up their water company's water quality report. More often than not, there's a little box where you can put your postcode. Once you get your postcode in and press go, you might find eventually a whole list of chemicals in your treated water. And then far down on the F level, you'll find fluoride. And if it's regular levels of minimum, average, and max fluoride, then it's natural fluoride. For example, it's about 0.21, 0.21, 0.21. That's natural. If it
So there is some fluoride in water
yes,
then.
yes,
Yeah.
it's
So
calcium fluoride, or it's runoff down the rivers.
yes.
Yes,
All the way.
that
Um, there's no safe level of fluoride because they've already established there's no safe level to prevent getting fluorosis of the teeth, which also equates to fluorosis of the skeleton. And also that 2018 Malin study showed essentially even at very, very, very low levels, it damages the thyroid gland. So I don't think we should be accepting any municipal water containing any of it. I mean, it's probably impossible to get it down to exactly zero, but they should be filtering the fluoride out.
yeah,
Simple as that.
I agree. If they can, I'm not quite sure if they have the technology for doing that, although you'd have thought that the aluminium sulfate they use would take some out. But
If sorry, just before we leave that, then if we got into a time machine and went back 200 years, would we find fluoride in the water then?
not much. But
But
even
not
so,
much.
as Zach says,
No.
any
Right.
amount's too bad.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
I think you have to look at the source of the fluoride now. Gypsum rock is processed to extract uranium from it, and a byproduct is fluoride. So gypsum is the stuff you have on your walls, it's plaster. And so their byproduct is unfortunately fluoride, as is the aluminium industry producing lots of waste fluoride. My suspicion is that the so-called natural background levels are not natural at all, especially in this country. Sure, fair enough in India, where you have high levels naturally occurring, so they say. But in those areas, it causes all kinds of health problems. It's not like it's natural, so it's okay. You couldn't say arsenic occurring naturally in the water is okay. It's not.
Yes.
Same with fluoride. Just because they claim it's naturally occurring, it's just a background level. Well,
Right.
excuse me, if you're supplying water to us, it better be fit for purpose. Simple as that.
Before we just leave that point then, and talking about the background of what's in water, water, of course, is used in all foods, processed foods, and processing foods, and in the farming industry. And so it's sprayed on crops and all the rest of it. So presumably the fluoride is getting into everything. And I think Joy or Zach, somebody mentioned it's in tea, on the tea leaves themselves. So, or it may have been on the BBC. I can't remember now. That it's in everything.
It could be, and because there's so much, it's very difficult to work out where it's all coming from.
Yeah.
But if it's in the natural water, it's in our groundwater, and it comes up as calcium fluoride, and it's eroded through the rocks over time. But in England, it's not very high at all. As I say,
Right.
maximum, mostly the average is about, no, not average, the minimum is about 0.2. Parts of East England have got higher levels of magnesium fluoride. Which in Hartlepool is 0.1, sorry, again, 1.9 milligrams, which is reduced down to 1.3 because 1.9 is not allowed. But throughout England, it's pretty low. There are some little some plumes of rock, like just to the east of Newbury, which has got 1 milligram fluoride per litre, and Uttoxeter up in Staffordshire. Again, there's a plume of rock there which contains fluoride, and all that is just being washed out, eroded over time. Wales is pretty free of fluoride, and so is Scotland.
Ah.
Yeah, and we don't have a problem in those two areas at all.
And they're not planning on putting it in?
Not England and Scotland at the moment. Scotland, they've been saber-rattling a little. Wales is very quiet. The one we're really concerned about is Cornwall. The county council has decided to ask for a public consultation.
Oh.
Really
Well,
bad news.
yes. Well, at least they're asking, I suppose. But anyway, to go back to the other questions, if people, so you can go to the website and you can look at the chemical stuff that's in water, and then presumably, I can't remember the order of the
Oh yes,
questions
we
now.
can. What can they do about it? Can they ask the water companies
Can you
to?
ask?
Well, we can stop paying our water charges, and many
Right.
of us are doing so, called withholding. We're still paying our sewerage charges, but not our water charges, and that's basically sending a really strong message. But we're not going to get anywhere with it. We might get taken to court, but that's okay. As far as I'm concerned, if they take me to court, I'll countersue. Because you cannot do this to people. In fact, what it is not drinking water, and you're selling us drinking water under false pretenses. So we
And
can't do that. But
so if
not,
you, you only need, presumably you only need one case, one successful case in court to say what you've, or maybe per water treatment company, but
well, maybe,
what
and I
you
suspect it has to be the right level of court. I don't think county court would do it for
right.
us.
Oh, if you
I
could
may be
get up,
wrong there.
yeah, I
But
don't know how
it's,
that
it's
works.
it's kind of saying it's something we can do, which is constructive, which is positive, and makes us feel much less powerless.
Yes.
So there you go. I've forgotten the other two questions because it's
So
so.
that then the other two questions was if we filter it out ourselves, can we send them an invoice?
No, no.
Yes, yes, I think you
You
can.
can. I've tried so hard in the past. It didn't work. I tried, this is my third attempt at keeping my water charges back. The first two times I was meticulous with my paper keeping and all my expenditure. I sent them the bills. Nah, they weren't interested. They just said they're doing what they have to do. And they do.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, it does make you wonder though if 100 people, 1,000 people, 10,000 people sent them invoices just to clog up their bloody system, saying, I'm charging you £500 a month
Hmm.
for not supplying clean water.
Well, they could probably afford to employ a few more temps to sort out the
AI would
I
do it for
suppose.
them.
Yeah.
AI.
Oh, I think that's a good idea. Can I come in there?
Please do.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea. I mean, the thing is, if you don't follow through and take it to court, you'll never succeed. That
Right.
that's
Yeah.
why you have to take it to court because that's all these companies really recognize. You can threaten to withhold individually and in groups, but unless you then force it through the court and say, "Well, hang on, they're being totally unreasonable here. I don't agree to having this water. I don't agree to having this chemical in my water. It's poisonous, and it's costing me, I don't know,
Hmm.
50 quid a month to filter it out. I want that money back. Thanks very much."
Yeah.
And I
Well, it's
don't.
trade descriptions, isn't it? If you're saying
Yes.
it's drinking water and it's polluted.
Yeah, it's Consumer Rights Act. Yeah. Yeah, if it's not fit for purpose, it's not fit for purpose. You don't have to pay for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Or a case of its product substitution. They're selling us drinking water, or so they say. But when we say it can't be drinking water because it's not in the drinking water directive does not allow for medicinal water to be covered by the drinking water directive. Then how can it be drinking water? So we shouldn't be paying for something which is no longer given the protection of the directive.
Yes. I always think it's quite interesting that you're charged for the water, charged for the water in the first place, in as much as they send it down a pipe, and it's only by your goodwill that you've turned a tap to stop the water draining out of the pipe, if you see what I mean. I mean, if you just said, well, you're pushing it down the pipe, mate, I should be charging you to stop it from flooding my house by turning a screw on a pipe, don't you think?
well, no, not really.
No,
Not really.
no.
Good,
All
good,
right, then,
good
he's
try.
fine.
Good
He's
try, Richard. There must be something in the water down there in Worthing.
It definitely is. It's
Yeah.
not fluoride. You can tell it's probably more whiskey. And the last question on that one then was, what the hell was the? Oh yeah, what do you do to get rid of it? What method can you get rid of the fluoride if you've got to do it yourself? What filtration things?
Well, I prefer to use distillation, but I also reverse osmosis my water first and then put that water into the distiller. So the
My
bottom of my
God.
distiller is nice and clean by the time I've got my water out.
Yes, I bet it is. And I mean that takes a long time. It's a right old rigmarole.
Well, the RO doesn't take any time at all. It's automatic.
Right. Oh,
The
okay.
reservoir is filled and the tap, you can just turn the tap on, put it into the distiller receptacle, put the distiller receptacle into the distiller itself, put the
Yes.
receptacle underneath the distiller, and then turn it on.
And do you,
Can I tell a tale of woe about distillers?
yes,
Yes.
do.
Just to put my size 12 boots in there, distilled water, most people think nothing can grow in it, but unfortunately, there's a bacteria called Pseudomonas which does grow in it.
Okay.
So you can poison yourself with that bacteria. So just buyer beware. You might just be careful what you're doing. Make sure everything's nice and clean. Keep everything clean. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe disinfect the distiller every so often just to keep it spotless. Yeah.
Very,
That's
I
very
would.
wise. Yes, indeed.
I always find with my distiller, I use a few juniper berries, and tastes lovely.
quite
But I don't tell the authorities that one.
right too.
Yeah,
Quite right too.
What's going
Can,
on?
can, can I give a plug for our lovely barrister, Richard?
please do.
Well,
Absolutely.
um, back in the era when we were being threatened to take the COVID vaccine,
Mm,
and if we didn't, us healthcare workers, if we weren't to take the vaccine, we were to be sacked. In essence,
mm.
uh, I started getting loads of phone calls from doctor friends, consultants, professors, whatnot, saying, "Well, I'm not taking that vaccine, Zach. What the hell are we going to do?" And I happen to know a few lawyers. So we started doing Zooms, and we had thousands of doctors and nurses on our Zooms. And one of the leading lawyers in our group was Louisa, and we eventually ended up with about 1,200 doctors and nurses on our books, and we started litigation against all of the hospitals, against hospital trusts that were threatening these good people. And we also litigated against some care homes and some dental surgeries as well. And that pressure um, put the government under extreme pressure, and eventually they backed down. So group actions do work. Um, they have to be well done, and they have to get press. If they don't get much press, they don't get much effect, unfortunately.
Yes. Yes.
So thank God for you, Richard. So we're well experienced at doing group action.
Yes.
And it's thanks largely to barristers like Louisa who think outside the box and who care that we were successful in that case.
And it doesn't matter if you're not in an area that's got fluoride now to take part in
No,
this.
no, it's okay. We'll take claimants from the whole country.
Right. Yeah. I'm just.
Predominantly, we're going to separate them into those that are already fluoridated, those that are imminently threatened with being fluoridated, and those who, well, the
Down
rest
the
of the
line.
rest of England. Scotland, luckily, had a court ruling by Lord Jauncey, who
It's a
where
name,
he
isn't it?
he declared that fluoride was a medicinal product, and therefore they're no longer under threat of fluoridation. Although, so I'm surprised to hear that they might do it again, Joy. Is that
The director of public health for Glasgow and Clydeside, NHS, was trying to persuade people around about 7 months ago. I don't think anything's been done or heard about it since. It's gone underground.
Well, okay. Is there any other stuff that you need to mention that we've not covered?
Oh,
your email, Joy?
yes, of course. You're going to have my email, obviously, underneath this program.
I'll put it.
But
I'll put all the stuff that you. I'll get you to send me all the stuff that you want in the description, and I will totally ignore it.
so,
No,
so
I
I
will put
really
it
do
in the
need
description.
hard sell now. The whole idea of this court case action is to stop fluoridation for once and for all throughout the UK. This is
Yeah.
the only chance we seem to have at the moment. Everything else we've tried has failed. Gentle persuasion has gone nowhere at all. And it's not just the government that's pressurizing for fluoridation, it's the establishment. And the establishment is permanent. They're the permanent civil servants. So unless we can persuade the high ups, as it were, that we are serious and this has to go through court, then how on earth are we ever going to stop it? You know, it's all very well stopping paying for your water charges, but that will not change the law or any, and it will not reduce the determination of the establishment, which clearly is there because of that strange World Service program we've just had on screen a few minutes ago, which is basically propaganda, really bad propaganda, where everything was denied. This is the only chance we are ever going to get of stopping fluoridation throughout the UK. We have to do it now. We have to grasp the nettle. Everybody needs to step up to the plate. And I hope
Absolutely.
that you will all contact me. I've got broad shoulders and I've got a lovely website and I've got a lovely email address, which is so easy to remember. It started off as West Midlands Against Fluoridation, and I've never left it. It's wmaf@live.co.uk. And I'm there to just field any emails you want to send to me. I listen to anything you want to say. As I say, I've got broad shoulders.
Fantastic. It's a good job you don't have the Welsh then coming, because they might be singing in the valleys.
I'll be
We
singing.
don't want fluoridation.
I'll be singing along with them because I'm Welsh.
Oh, well, there you are. I see. Fantastic. That's even better. Well, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, we've been sort of slightly joking along a little bit with this, but it is a very, very serious subject, and I don't like scaring people, but this is about the children. Some of us have reached an age where it doesn't really matter if we go a little bit doolally. In fact, a little bit of attention deficit would be quite useful for me a lot of the time, because there's so many scary things to look at. But our children deserve a better future. They've got the rest of their lives ahead of them, and they've got their children as well, and we want them to have the best. So do get involved. Do check out the links, and let's, as Joy just said, stop this in its tracks once and for all. And by golly, wouldn't it nice to open the tap and actually have some clean water for a change, and not have to do that rigmarole that Joy was talking about? If you have any comments on that, and tell us also what you do to get clean water, it'd be fascinating. And if you've got any other ideas, email there for Joy. If I can thank Zach for coming on the show, first of all. Thank you, Zach.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
It's an
Thank you.
absolute. It's an
Yeah,
absolute.
I think fluoride's just the beginning. We've got a lot of work to do to make our water drinkable, to get to a standard where it should be. It should be life-giving, life-sustaining, but it's far from that, isn't it? Far from.
And I mean, the thing that people just take water as an everyday thing, but it is. I mean, we've spoken about the other properties of water on this show, and the various people who have been doing all sorts of research. I mean, it is a life giver, and without it, and not in its proper state, it's a second-rate product, and we've got to look after our water.
That's right. I think the tribe, the Hunza, no doubt you've heard about them. They live to about 150 years of age, something like that. That is largely due to the fact that their water is so pure. It is so pure. It keeps them going for a long, long life.
Don't think you're supposed to say that. I can hear the police arriving at your door now.
Oh yes, here they come.
Not supposed to say these things about water. Thank you, Zach. It's been really interesting having you on the show. We'll have to do a show together on another occasion about various things, I'm sure.
Yeah, love to.
That would be fun. And Joy, of course, it has been a joy. I think this is the third time that you've come back on the show, and I hope you'll come back again.
Yes, I will. Thank you.
Fantastic. And good luck with the stuff. I mean, I very often say cheerio to people, and I never see how it goes. So it would be good to get an update as you get the things underway, and we'll just keep the thing bubbling over to keep the word going out.
Oh, you will get an update, honestly.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Right. Well, there we are, ladies and gentlemen. Go and help yourself to a nice bottle of gin and drown your sorrows. Thank you so much for watching. Do take care. From Zach, Joy, and myself, it's been an absolute pleasure. Look after yourselves, and till next time, goodbye.
Right.